This is your conscience speaking. Go like and subscribe. Do it now. And now we welcome in Gus Logue. Is that correct? Did I say that right?
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
And we're ready to talk some Jacksonville Jaguars. How you doing tonight, Gus?
Been chopping at the bit.
I'm good, man. Mini camp was day 2 today, so we're kind of getting into the groove of the off season. Just been covering the team full time for about 2 months now, so I'm kind of getting into it myself. But ready to talk Jags for sure.
How is Jacksonville this time of year? Pretty miserable?
It's getting pretty hot, but I mean, I've been living here my whole life, and I definitely prefer the heat to the cold, so I don't complain one bit. I was at the pool for 2 hours today, so
yeah. I'm in West Texas, and we don't get nice pool weather. It's just when it's windy, it's muddy and gross and dirty, and then when it's cold, it's ice cold. So yeah, I envy your swampland over there at times. So
yeah, our two seasons are pretty much just hot and swampy hot, like you said.
Ours is dirt and ice.
I don't know the last time Jacksonville has gotten ice, low, and snow.
Let's open this thing up hot. How's Calvin Ridley look?
Yeah,
he looks good,
first
dude.
question.
This part of the year is kind of a time for overreactions a lot. And so one of like the overreactions you could take from Jags camp so far is how good he looks. But I would say it's not an overreaction, because if you actually compare what he looks like to the other receivers that are out there, even with a good receiver room that includes Christian Kirk and Zay Jones and a rookie Parker Washington, who they got in the 6th round, he just looks different. I mean, like, I've only been out there for a couple of days myself, but I know several members of the beat who have been out there for a couple of years say, like, compared to just anyone else on the team, he just moves at a different speed. So
yeah,
hype is definitely very real down here.
You look at this Jaguars team last offseason. They made all the moves. They went out. Everybody made fun of the Christian Kirk contract. 2022 season, he went out there and balled out, and everybody was like, well, maybe Christian Kirk was worth it. Zay Jones looked good. Adding Calvin Ridley to that, do you think that elevates Kirk and Jones, or do you think, like, in my mind, I think it helps. Evan Ingram also huge resurgence there last year, one of the best tight ends in the league last year. So, you think bringing in a dominant pass catcher like Calvin Ridley, who was arguably a top 10 wide receiver his time in Atlanta, a high volume, high target guy, do you think bringing in a guy like that helps 3 guys that probably overperformed the year before, or not overperformed, but performed higher than expectations? Or do you think bringing in a guy like that, maybe they regress a little bit and maybe the offense isn't as fluid with a guy like that, who I wouldn't say demands the ball,
share.
Yeah, because I mean he's not the big outspoken, like, give me the ball type guy, but yeah, just a guy that you want to get the ball to. Like, do you think that hurts the offense? Like,
I think in terms of like individual,
it's hard to say, but
of course it's going to hurt. Like, Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk and Zay Jones all like probably had career years last year, or they did have career years, but I don't think they'll ever have another season that was as good as their respective 2022 seasons. So like, obviously their targets and receptions and yards and all those things may go down a little bit, but I think in terms of like a team dynamic and like helping out the team, it's definitely going to improve. Like, the whole bit about like having a field stretcher to take the top off is kind of overblown at this point. But at the same time, like, Calvin Ridley will provide that for the Jaguars. And it'll be the first time they really have like a true speedster, field stretcher, downfield threat kind of guy since like DJ Chark made the Pro Bowl in 2019, and he was kind of unhealthy after that. So yeah, it's gonna like make a big difference in terms of like where the Jaguars are going to be able to access the field and actually be able to fully take advantage of Trevor Lawrence's arm.
So I got a question for you about Ridley.
Yeah.
Are you at all concerned that he has not taken a hit since the Atlanta Braves were about to play in the World Series in 2021?
I'm not concerned, honestly. Like, I think he'll probably get off to a slower start than some like hardcore fans are like really hoping, because even if he has a breakout season, like, he could still have a slow start in the first month or two as he's just getting acclimated to not even like the system and the quarterback, but as you said, just like playing in the NFL for the first time in 2 years. So I think there will be an effect, and like that you'll be able to see in the stats as well. and probably like in the snap count too. But that's really the thing is that the Jaguars are going to be careful, and the Jaguars have been careful. Like he's been running off to the side during like OTAs and minicamp, while like the rest of the team pretty much, other than the actual other injured guys, are
Yeah.
running in practice. So
Well, I mean, they have the depth at pass catcher to be careful with him, right? It's
Yeah,
not like they need
sure.
him on the field all the time.
And
I
yeah, like
also-
you're saying with the fluidity, like they have that from everyone last year. Like they're gonna have a tackle replacement with Walker Little, replacing Cam Robinson when he's suspended, and then Anton Harrison replacing Jawan Taylor. But outside of the tackles and Calvin Ridley, like there's a lot of continuity in the offense.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he's not coming off injury helps too. As long as he kept his body right, I think that helps out a lot because then you're not worried about the cuts. You're not worried about the footwork and everything like all the nagging things that could catch up with somebody coming off injury. You just have to get back to game speed, back to the physicality, which as long as you took care of yourself in that time, I think is a lot easier to walk back into rather than maybe coming off of a knee or an ankle or some sort of ligament, something like that, to where you might be favoring it whenever you're running an out or running an in or running a dig, whatever it is. Like you still trust your body fully. So I mean, you're just getting back to that game speed, back to the physicality aspect of it. And like I said, as long as you took care of yourself in the meantime, I think that's a huge advantage coming for Ridley.
Yeah, one thing the Jags do have in their hand is health right now because they're one of the least injured teams in the league last year. And like you said, they have a pretty good depth at the receiver position. So
you mentioned Cam Robinson, and I have a question. How long is this dude suspended for? Because all I can see is that it's undisclosed and it's somewhere from 2 to 8 games. And the fact that it's undisclosed is the silliest thing on earth to me.
yeah, the NFL is just like kind of going to take their time with this one. Like they're not really in a rush to disclose it or announce it or anything like that. So it's just going to be somewhere between 2 and 8 games. Like my guess, I guess, would be 4 or 6 games. But
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. He's going to be out for a month or two.
Is Walker Little that much different than Cam Robinson? Because all the numbers I'm looking at say they're very similar.
The thing with Walker is he's super promising because he was a second-round pick, and he was supposed to be a first-round pick, like projected to be in the first round. If it wasn't for him sitting out for the COVID season, he then went into the second round. And then he just hasn't really had a lot of playing time. So experience is a question mark with him. But the thing is that in like the 3 or 4 games that he has started and the handful of others that he's appeared in, he has played very well with like not a lot of mistakes and like the right mindset and really everything that you would want to see out of him. So I think people can expect good things from him, but at the same time, his lack of experience could lead to like maybe a rocky start, especially with Anton Harrison also having 0 snaps of NFL experience under his belt.
And he is a little raw
tackles
coming
and
in.
our receiver maybe start slow. Could have the whole offense start a little bit slow and then pick up midseason.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, on the defense, what do you think of Roy Robertson Harris? Because that's my dude.
Roy Rob.
He's fun. He seems like a really good dude off the field. On the field, he's probably going to be a starter and like one of their 4, maybe 5 main pass rushers. He's got to step it up a little bit on run defense on early downs.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
He's definitely like a super vocal and like a huge culture guy for them. So he's a good dude.
That's good to hear. What are you expecting from Trayvon Walker this year, and how'd you feel about him last year?
Last year,
how'd you feel about the pick?
So the thing about the pick was that, like, what other option did they have? You can make an argument for Hutchinson or Thibodeau or whoever else was at the top of the draft, I guess. But it wasn't a very
Hutchinson would have been mine, but
that's fair.
At the time, I mean, what did you think about the pick? Like, were you hoping they traded, or were you fine taking the edge rusher that was, in their mind, the best on the board? Obviously, they took him where they did. So, was it? I'm glad we took the number 1 player on our board, or like, God, I can't believe we couldn't figure out a way to trade back and maybe add assets.
It was definitely more of the former because, I mean, a trade back definitely would have been best case scenario, but since there wasn't a great quarterback at the top of the draft, that just wasn't going to happen. Also, I think that like getting Trevor Lawrence first overall the previous year made it like a little bit of karma. Like, okay, it's fine that we like got a not great first overall pick after getting Trevor. Yeah, but like it was a little bit underwhelming because of the weak class and because he was like didn't have a lot of college production. But at the same time, edge was probably the team's biggest need, and like I'm gonna trust their board over mine because I don't work for an NFL team and I'm not a scout.
Absolutely.
So
that's what I'm saying. Like I would have, like I said, I would have preferred Hutchinson, but I'm also an idiot. So
yeah, the thing
I'm a Cowboys fan. Like whenever we drafted Taco Charlton, I was like, it's not who I wanted, but like he's gonna be a beast, and he was
right.
He was. I bought a Taco Charlton. I have a Taco Charlton jersey sitting in my closet right now. Like,
I think he was on
trust
the Jags for like a hot second.
I think he's been on about 10 different teams.
Yeah,
I understand hopping on board, so I was just curious as a Jags fan if you were trusting it or you were upset. So.
I could see the vision. That's the thing is like he could pan out to be like a top 5 player at his position because he has like the traits to do so, and so like it's a matter of like getting a second move in pass rush other than just pushing guys.
Is honestly, the vision him kicking inside on passing downs or anything like that? I didn't catch too much of what he did last year, but I feel like that has to be in the book, right?
Yeah, that's kind of one of the big storylines of the offseason for the Jags is that last year they had him full time at edge and like as an outside linebacker with 2 hands or 0 hands in the dirt. And so like he was just kind of playing out of position and learning a new position, plus on top of like being an NFL rookie and having plenty of game experience, but maybe not a ton of snap experience at Georgia throughout his career. So like it was a little bit underwhelming of a rookie season for a first overall pick, but for this guy that we knew was going to be like a little bit of a project and kind of raw coming in, like it wasn't a bad rookie year. And then this year, like we're looking forward to seeing like if he has 3 hands in the dirt versus 2 and like lining up more on the inside, which is like more of his natural thing. And like it'll just let him kind of play a lot faster and be more explosive and kind of
get that length straight into the blocker and then use it, right?
And then
it doesn't hurt having Josh Allen opposite of him either.
What'd you say?
Best quarterback in the NFL.
I said it doesn't hurt having Josh Allen opposite of him either.
No, I was gonna say like using him inside because I could help guys like Josh Allen, and then like the thing with the defense is that the edge depth is pretty brutal after Trayvon and Josh. So like if Trayvon is inside and then opens things up for Josh Allen, and then like rookie Yasir Abdullah and 4th or 5th year guy Caleb Chase on guys like that, then it could be helpful all around.
What's the story with Chase on? Because I know people were very split on him when he was drafted on but the traits were always there, right? So what's kind of the development that's going on there?
Yeah, the traits were there, but the thing is he can only play like outside, like 9 tech, very outside edge rusher. Okay. And he's like small and has small arms. So he's almost more of like a designated pass rusher. And like the production just hasn't really been there. Like he has 3 career sacks through 3 seasons. So last year, there was like a couple of solid flashes, and that's kind of been the story with him his whole career is that there has been nice flashes, but he also only played a handful of games last year because he was hurt. So the Jags coaches have had plenty of nice things to say about him this offseason, but we definitely have kind of like yet to see it consistently from him.
Okay. Yeah. So looking at this team, looking at the division, they're one of the few teams that are negative money, I guess, to win the division. So they're well on the odds-on favorite. So looking at this team, I mean, you have Trevor Lawrence, the phenom. You have Travis Etienne, who's looking to hopefully have another big-time year. You have Evan Ingram, who just had a breakout year. You have Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Calvin Ridley on the offense. The defense that we just talked about. Like, what has to go wrong outside of injury to prevent this team from being a top 3 seed in the AFC, making a run at the AFC Championship, making a run at the Super Bowl? Like, where do things go wrong, assuming that everyone stays healthy?
So like I think they're a good bet to win the division just because it's a top 5 quarterback in Trevor Lawrence versus a bunch of
top 5.
Top 5.
Okay.
Oh, Jay, I got some.
Can I do this right now?
right here.
I like Trevor
Like,
Lawrence.
Mahomes, Josh Allen,
Dude.
Joe Burrow. I'll give you those three. Lamar Jackson is 4.
You're putting
I'll give
Josh
you-
Allen at 2?
From week 9 on last year, Trevor Lawrence was a top 5 quarterback in
Hey.
almost every metric out there.
There you
love
go.
Like,
Trevor
it was
Lawrence.
impressive.
And now he gets
I'm not
Calvin
sure
Ridley.
that I'm putting him in my top 5 quite yet, but I'm also not going to list him right here because I couldn't even tell you who I have at 5 right now. But
Yeah, I
he's
love
in
Trevor
consideration without a doubt. Like, his
Okay.
numbers to the second half of last year were insane.
Speaking of Trevor Lawrence, can I ask you an off-topic question?
Yeah.
So I'm a diehard Spurs fan,
Okay.
and whenever you got the number 1 overall pick, knowing Trevor Lawrence is coming out, how great did it feel? Because I feel great that we're about to get Victor Wembanyama.
Oh man. Yeah, it's once in a lifetime, dude. I mean, congratulations, first of all. But
Congratulations to you, Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is one of my favorite all-time players ever. Like, I love Trevor Lawrence. I loved him out of Clemson. I don't know if I'd put him in top 5 yet, but I am a big Trevor Lawrence fan. And I think if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes, it would be his league for the next 10 years. He might have to share that title with what might possibly be the greatest quarterback the NFL's ever seen, with Patrick Mahomes.
all right, we'll take the Peyton Manning to Mahomes' Tom Brady. We'll be
Yeah.
fine with that.
Yeah.
So how did
But-
it feel when you got him?
Yeah.
To answer your question about like what could go wrong though, so like I was saying that I don't see like the division being a problem for them, and I think they will be able to get like a pretty solid seed. But like when they're playing against like these top 5 type quarterbacks, and like we know the AFC is loaded with them, that's when like the depth concerns on defense could kind of like scare me, because I've mentioned the edge depth already, and then at corner you have Tyson Campbell, who's like a name you gotta like write down and remember because he's a really good cornerback. And I'd say like top 15 would be like my take, not top 5.
That
or
next
anything,
question
but
for you was going to be how many Pro Bowls is Tyson Campbell going to make? So
good amount. He's a legit player.
he's
Like,
good.
he just doesn't really have the ball production yet, which is part of the reason he's like that. In Jacksonville being a small market is like part of the reason he's
Yeah.
not super well known, but he's going to be well known. But then we've also got Darius Williams, who's a solid number 2, but he's also small and old, so defenses kind of or opposing offenses usually target him. And then like after that, like the depth is not very encouraging. So I think like through the regular season, as long as like other than injuries, like you said, they'll be able to get through it okay. But then like once you start playing like Joe Burrow, then Justin Herbert, and then Patrick Mahomes 3 straight weeks in the postseason, like
Don't forget
This-
Russell Wilson.
turns to kind of pop up when like Andy Reid knows to target your corner 3 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I got one more roster question here for you on the offense, and
Yeah.
you might not know, but what the hell happened to Dearness Johnson last year? Why did he just like get shut out of Cleveland's offense? And is there something to be excited about for Jacksonville with him this year?
No, he's basically just a special teamer. Honestly,
Okay.
Jermichael Hasty is probably going to be like second in the backfield in touches, I would say. Like, or he and Hasty and Tank Bigsby, the 3rd-round rookie from Auburn.
I like Tank Bigsby a lot.
Yeah,
I liked him
I
a
like
lot
him
coming
too.
out.
It seems like the coaches are in love with him. So I think he's going to be really good. But like, I think Hasty is like a pretty dependable back, and like one of those backs that like fantasy people might get annoyed at that just like won't go away because the coaches trust him on important downs. Hasty's like that kind of guy. So Hasty's going to get his.
What is Britton Strange looking like coming out at tight end?
Love that kid.
I love him too. That's what I wanted the Cowboys to get.
Of like 10 catches as a rookie for him. Like I'm not really expecting him to contribute until 2024, just because like tight end is already one of the hardest positions.
That didn't take a lot to develop,
Okay.
but I mean, I just didn't know if you'd seen anything through camp. Be like, oh, okay, we got a guy here.
I've seen him. I haven't thought that in my head though, to be honest.
He
I
was
thought that
so
was-
versatile at Penn
he looks
State.
impressive.
He was so fun.
So looking at this win total, 9.5. Vegas has this team at 9.5. We're just gonna assume that Jacksonville's taking the division. We'll say they'll go over 9.5 because division winners typically win over 10 games. So I won't really ask you about that. Who in this division? Because we're breaking down the entire division tonight. Who in this division do you think poses the biggest threat and why? We just talked Colts. We talked Anthony Richardson. we're about to touch on the Texans with their rookie quarterback as well. So who in this division is it? Is it the Titans with probably the best coach in the division? Dougie P is a good coach
That's
too.
what I would say.
I don't want to rag on Dougie P, but I love Vrabel there in Tennessee. But who do you think is the closest one to dethrone y'all? I guess
I am a Florida grad, so I'm a big Anthony Richardson guy. So I'm pretty scared about what he could be in Indianapolis. But until like anything else is done, or like until further notice, it's the Titans and Mike Vrabel. Just because
they've proven it.
Are always in every single game. They're just so well coached and so well led that like
the Titans are always the best bet in week like 7 when they're 5-2, or 5-1 or whatever they are going into week 7. You're like, oh, they're not going to do it again. They're always like the surefire bet that like, they're going to do it.
So annoying. But I've always said that like the scariest thing for a Jags fan is Mike Vrabel with a good quarterback, because that'd be a pretty scary sight. Until then, like I'm fine with them charting out Ryan Tannehill and Will Levis. Doesn't scare the villains too much. That's
so you're not scared of the Mayo Man.
Will Levis may be the least scariest quarterback that's ever been drafted. We can. Will Levis. I mean, I debated so many people on Will Levis coming out about if he was good, why wasn't he good? And the fact that he went when he did in the draft just proved my point. So I felt like I could stop that debate, but he's not good.
So, an interesting schedule aspect here for the Jags. I think you know where I'm going with this. The two games in a row overseas. Like what do you think that's good? What type of challenge is that going to bring? How are they going to manage it? Like what advantage?
I think it's great for them.
Have?
It actually is great for them in terms of like just looking at 2023 and like the team performance. It's actually beneficial for them to kind of stay in London for the full week. Coach Peterson said that was like the plan, was to stay over there for the week.
Getting Buffalo in that second game.
Right. So you're going to have a massive rest advantage because they're already like adjusted to the time difference, whereas Buffalo is kind of coming in, going to be tired, assumingly. And then the week before you're playing the Falcons, which doesn't really matter. That's in London.
A winnable game.
Your early matchup, just because like Desmond Ridder.
Calvin Ridley game.
A couple games. Yeah.
I'll tell you what though.
I didn't even think about that.
Falcons roster has just like overnight. It's just like, whoa, these guys are actually kind of good if they just had a quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I like the Falcons a lot. I actually took them to win the division already. But it is a winnable game. If you're the Jaguars with this roster, it's a winnable game. But the fact that you don't have Buffalo coming to you and you're not getting Buffalo there and you're staying in the same place for 2 straight weeks, like I would rather play Buffalo staying in London for 2 weeks, getting them the second week rather than playing them at home or going to Buffalo.
Yeah, it was actually supposed to be an away game in Buffalo, or that's how it's like kind of charted. And so that's the other thing about it, is that like the Jaguars already give up a home game every year for being in London. So like if they give up an away game, like who really cares? And if you're
back to back
an away game in Buffalo, then you'd definitely rather play that in London.
Absolutely. So yeah, no, I think that broke perfectly. Even if the Atlanta game was technically the home game and you would have had Buffalo at home.
Yeah, either
I would still rather have Buffalo on the second of a back-to-back London game than going to London, then coming back home and playing them in Jacksonville and coming to your place after being in London the week before. So I think that's perfect for them.
The only bad part about it is that they don't get a bye immediately coming back from London. They have to play like 2 or 3 games before they get a bye. So.
Yeah, but it is Indy, New Orleans, and Pittsburgh. I mean, three winnable games.
But one of those is a short week in New Orleans.
When I did like game
rough,
after the schedule came out, I think they're going to lose in New Orleans because like the short week and the travel, I think it's just going to kind of all
coming back from London, having Indy at home, Thursday night at New Orleans, and then followed by Pittsburgh. But then you got a good bye going into San Francisco, Tennessee, Houston though. So I mean,
yeah, and that's huge because San Francisco I thought was like the scariest non-Kansas City matchup on the schedule, but having a bye before that game is pretty big.
Yeah, their quarterback situation is pretty undesirable, but that San Francisco team is
Yeah,
nasty.
the quarterback situation is Kyle Shanahan doing puppets and kind
Yeah.
of controlling everyone.
I mean, Kyle Shanahan might be playing quarterback.
Are we
for that
sure
team by the end
Brock
of the
Purdy's a
season.
real person?
No, I'm not.
Brock Purdy is Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, honestly, some kind of cloning system or DNA transfer. Gotta be.
All right. Well, you got anything else on this, Quentin?
No, Gus, can you tell the people? Excuse me. Can you tell the people where they can find you?
Absolutely. My Twitter's at Gus_Logue, Logue, and I do work for 1010XL, which is Jax's like local radio sports station, and Big Cat Country, which is SB Nation's Jaguars blog. So you can find me in all those places.
Awesome, man. Well, it was great having you, and hope to have you back sometime. I'm a big Trevor Lawrence fan, so I'm cheering for y'all big time
Top five,
here.
that's what I'm saying.
Man,
So,
everyone's got
I
to
love
be
that-
Jaguars
We'll come back on the
fans.
takes.
Yeah,
I'm always rooting for the Jaguars, except for when they're playing our guy. We're Texas Tech alumni. When he's playing our guy, Patty Mahomes, it's the only time.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Fat Pat is,
Nice.
but yeah, I'm big Trevor Lawrence and Victor Wembanyama all the way. So I want to share in your wealth of generational talent getting drafted to your team number 1 overall. So we have that together.
There you go. Go Spurs.
All
All right.
Thanks, man.
Thanks
You
for
have a good
coming
night.
on, Gus.
Yeah, appreciate it.